Welcome back to Grid Down Magazine at Guns America Digest. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so at gunsamerica.com/digest. Usually there are a lot of articles that come with these videos that have a lot more details than I go over in the videos, and of course they will have product links. Now for this product, it's actually important to get the product link because nobody sells this stove anywhere in the world except through one place, and that is Star and Bullock Hardware, sbhardware.com, that brought these into the country. And what they are a rocket stove that was made for African relief. It says, they say Great Green Wall on them, and they actually say not for sale, that it was made just for them and it's not for sale. But they were able to secure this stove. And for those of you who have followed Prepping 101 for years, I'm sorry that I have to repeat myself so much, but the rocket stove concept is something that has bothered me for almost 10 years now. I started writing about this 10 years. The first, quote, rocket stove was called the StoveTech. And the StoveTech, it was green. I have a couple of them. It's a very big, heavy, it's like 40 pounds. It's got a big cast iron top, and the sides are lined with cement. And I just saw that someone rebooted the old rocket stove with the cast iron top recently, and they, I can't believe it. They're still selling the old concept of the rocket stove concept. So the rocket stove concept is that the cement in the outside walls actually helps to make a more significant fire. It makes a more hot, robust fire because the cement in the walls will insulate the fire and make it burn at a hotter temperature, retain more heat because cement is an insulator, and it will retain heat and it will burn hotter and it will burn the wood gas and the carbon monoxide that normally comes off of wood when you burn it. That it burns at a higher temperature and it usually just floats away. I was unable to prove that this is true. It didn't seem to burn any hotter than a regular fire, but it did, but it was extremely effective at burning sticks and palm fronds and all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't think would be good survival fuel if you've ever tried to burn it in an open fire. It's just not good survival fuel, right? So we have a lot of palm fronds. These palm fronds dump a lot in Florida. And I actually am refilming this intro because I cut my head off. So part of this video will have my head cut off in it, which is fine. But I figured I'd at least reshoot the beginning to explain the stove, the rocket stove concept to those of you guys who have not been exposed to this. The other part of the rocket stove, the insulating walls thing, I'm not so sure about it, all right? I really don't think that it's worth a big 40-pound cast iron thing to, for this theoretical benefit. This stove was made for people who have to have a stove. All right, this was not made for campers. It was not made as a gimmick to sell to the outdoor crowd. It wasn't made to buy it at Cabela's or Bass Pro or any of those places. This is actually a warning that I will explain to you later, is that the fire can creep out of the stove, but it's just a palm frond, so it'll burn. The Africans who they send this to, some of these even say the Great Green Wall on them, and you can Google that term, Great Green Wall, and or DuckDuckGo it preferably, and you'll see that they are an African relief organization, and these stoves actually say not for sale on them. What they did is they took the rocket stove concept and they made a very big, stable stove, like big, stable. You see that this is a pot. This is actually a gallon of water burning here, trying to boil here. And they made this big, and I do want to boil it. because the end of the video is going to have me boiling it. This fire is now rip-roaring, and I will get into more of what these stoves look like, and how, you know, I'll show you lighting it and all that stuff, but my head will be cut off for those things. I actually don't need to add anything. It's pretty rip-roaring. The original rocket stove concept is valid in that it does focus the fire upwards, and this actually does have this actually has an air gap insulator, not cement, so it's pretty light. You know, it's a pretty light, easy portable stove. It comes in two parts. It comes completely assembled except for for this guy, and that just goes in like so. All right, I don't know how I'll cut the other video to show you lighting it, but I will probably not repeat that because I already did this once. The things that you need to know are that it's portable, it's light, and it's stable. That's why this product, I think, is very special. There's some other stoves that there's not a lot of these. At sbhardware.com. I sound like a sales guy, but when they're gone, they're gone. I do not believe any more of these are coming. So, but there are some Turkish ones that are also pretty good, and I will do those at a later date if and when they ever arrive. And then that just sits in there because that's the chamber for that's the air chamber. So the concept of the rocket stove, besides, like I said, is valid, all right? The rocket stove is meant to be able to turn twigs, leaves, that kind of stuff into actual viable cooking fire. In my experience, it does help to have some decent wood on hand. You can use pallet wood, which maybe I'll grab some pallet wood for this. I just cut up some sticks that I had here because I didn't feel like going foraging. And I've got some palm fronds because I happen to live in Florida. And the palm fronds, yeah, I think you could almost cook on what the palm fronds drop. And I have cooked with my rocket stoves many times using palm fronds, and I've even canned with rocket stoves. But I figured I'll light this guy up using some palm stuff, and I'll add some wood as I go. And then, you know, we'll I'm not going to can or anything, but I'll boil a gallon of water and just see where it goes from there. I'm going to light this. Hopefully I haven't packed it too much. I've done a few articles and videos over the years on fire starters and that kind of stuff. I strongly suggest that you have a bunch of butane lighters on hand with the butane or just disposable lighters like this, because lighting a fire is usually not as simple as many of us would have it be. They especially if you're dealing with wet stuff, like this stuff is not wet. This is bone dry palm stuff. But like anything else, you know, it's not so easy to get going. You can get it, you know, it looks pretty impressive, but once it burns down, it's not so impressive anymore. Okay, paper is always very impressive. Boo. That's why I have scars and burns and everything else, because I tend to be somewhat careless. But with this guy, you see it's got a little bit of room on top of the burn chamber so that you don't have to watch your size of your sticks as well. I'm going to add a few of these hardwood sticks too once this gets going. This is pretty much, I mean, that's actually going now, believe it or not. First try, it's actually going. I like to really, until I actually have coals, I like to kind of babysit it before I start to cook on it, because as much as you think it's going, sometimes it just ain't until you really start to get some coals going in there. And see, one side's going, the other side's a little bit behind. And there's so many videos to watch these days. I don't expect or even suggest that you guys hang out and watch me do this. I'm gonna leave this, I'm not gonna cut this stuff out because, you know, because I am gonna boil water on it, and you can fast forward to that if you want, but the product is a pretty viable product. My point is to introduce you to these things, to introduce you to these concepts. There's so many people new into the prepping space, you know, that there's so many people who've never heard of any of this stuff. So I'm gonna just keep the simple stuff going for a while now. Okay, so the thing I left out so far, all right, is once you have some coals on a rocket stove, the whole point is not that you stuff stuff in the top. The point is that you stuff stuff that you can feed them in from the side. And I'm not gonna feed a lot because I will be here all day and I don't wanna have to douse this or whatever. The point is that you can keep feeding it so that if you are canning or if you are cooking for a lot of people, that you have the ability to just keep feeding the stuff in without having to take the pot off. Now, I am using an old dusty pot, as you can see, hoping that my fire stays lit. And I'm gonna put a gallon of water in there, and I will cut out a lot of this because you guys don't need to wait for the water to boil, but I will at least keep it going just so that you guys can see. I wanted you to see how the fire, now this is a breezy day here, all right, and I've got periods of breeze. I probably have a storm coming in, as every afternoon in South Florida once the summer's here. See how I'm kind of mixing it up, and eventually those coals will get the whole thing going, especially if you are able to just kind of put pieces hanging in there. But as you can see, I'm cooking right now with sticks. That's the point, is that I have a really viable rocket kind of fire going there just with sticks. Now, it does put a lot of creosote on the bottom of your pot. So this is, you know, this is an outdoor cooking thing. People say, oh, can you use it indoors? No, you can't use a rocket stove indoors. All right, this is strictly outdoors. And it's gonna it gets a lot of creosote on your pot. So you're gonna want a separate cooker, a separate canner. If you're able to cook some with propane, you know, if you're just boiling water because you're worried that your water is bad, and you just want to make sure that the microorganisms are dead in it. Obviously, boiling isn't going to get rid of anything else. But if you just want to make sure that there's that an animal didn't die downstream, and you want to and you want to just kill the microbes that might be in there, that's what this kind of thing is for. So this is already sweating. The water is already, yes, my hands are filthy. I'm not going to drink this water. But this water, and I'm downwind, of course, this water is going to boil fairly quickly, because even without the cement in the walls, rocket stoves are extremely effective. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of tips. One thing is that you have to tend this wood. You have to continually push this wood in, because if you don't and you walk away, the fire will creep back. Okay? There's nothing preventing this wood here from burning, right? So the fire will creep back and will eventually creep out of the stove. So you don't want to do that. You want it to just burn in the stove. So what you do that is just by pushing. You just push your sticks forward. And like I said, this lit the first time. This is pretty crazy dry wood that I picked up on the side of the road. People say, oh, where am I going to get fuel? You know, I saw a pile of wood on the road that just cut wood that nobody had touched for a year. I've seen it sitting there for a year. So one day I stopped and I just started grabbed pieces and threw them in my truck. I didn't fill up my whole truck, but I did get a lot of wood. And now I have this beautiful hardwood. This is probably oak. I don't know. This looks like oak to me. This is beautiful dry oak. Big pieces, little pieces, perfect rocket stove stuff. So I'm back to having my head on again. And I'll show you one of the tips that I can. This has been going about a half an hour, and as you can see, I did not put any more of the hardwood in there, okay? So it is pretty much boiling, but in order to get it to go to boiling, what I did is I threw in a couple handfuls of palm fronds, like so, okay? Because with all the coals in there that are in there now, they will ignite instantly, as you saw, and the creosote that's all over the outside of the pot, it's going to be there no matter what. So you might as well burn your garbage if you just want to maintain if you just want to get a sudden burst of heat. When I do that, it turns into a rolling boil. And otherwise, there's not much hardwood left in there really. It's mostly coals and there's a little bit of the two larger sticks that are in there. I'm not going to sit here all afternoon, so I'm not going to put any more hardwood in there. But I wanted to show you, just so that you understand judiciously using your fuel also, that you can use your garbage fuel, your leaves, your handfuls of leaves, and that kind of stuff. Also, as you're cooking, you just take the pot off like a regular, not rocket stove with the side port. And but then if you wanna just maintain a boil, or you're canning and you just want to maintain your temperature, then you just feed the wood in from the side. And the more you feed in, the faster you push, and the higher you stack it, the higher it goes. But there's plenty of heat here for canning. There's plenty of heat here for cooking large meals for a lot of people. We'll probably come back and do the larger pot sometime, maybe once the other stoves come in. Maybe we'll do a head-to-head if these are still here. I suspect these may be gone by then. But whatever, the important thing is to do it before you need it. I am surrounded by love bugs, so if you see things flying around on the camera, that's what they are. They're love bugs. And in this time of year in Florida, the fronts of our cars are covered with them because they are crazy hatches. So the important thing, like I was saying, is that you do it before you need it, that you learn this before you need it, that you try these before you need it. Don't just get them and throw them in a pile and you don't know how they work and you don't remember how they work. If you take it out and you use it, yeah, it turns the metal color and blue and it gets crap all over your pot and all of that stuff. But it's important to get the stuff now before you need it, so that when you need it, you don't have to scramble. I'll see you next time.
Without the Second Amendment, the rest of the Constitution is just a piece of paper. The tyrannical government has guns, and as their corrupt, bought and paid for narrative falls apart, they'll be more tempted to turn them on us. But don't worry, you're not alone, patriots. Buy a gun today from GunsAmerica.com, America's oldest and most trusted online platform for buying and selling the guns that keep your loved ones safe. Join the millions of gun buyers who shop there monthly. Private sellers and gun dealers. List your sales for free. No fees for transactions within 50 miles. Selling fees half the cost of auction sites. When you sign up for free at GunsAmerica.com, you get exclusive access to Guns America Digest, delivered every Monday, honest gun reviews, firearm instruction, and wisdom from America's most popular gun writers. You also get Guns America This Week. Don't miss any important Second Amendment stories, and several monthly magazines on hunting, prepping, and long-range shooting. When you sign up today at GunsAmerica.com, you get $10 off your first online gun purchase. Join the fight today at GunsAmerica.com.